Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're gonna be a craftier person after watching this video. Well, you can't say you didn't know where to find me. So this happened about 3 years ago. It's more accidental malicious compliance, but we'll see how you guys find it. So for context, I was working in the complaints department of a debt management company in the UK. We had over 800 employees, but it was kind of ran like a mum and pop store in terms of its mentality. So everyone really did odd jobs as well as their designated roles. So to the compliance part. The company spent a fair bit of money on this fancy new intranet system. They wanted every member of staff to have a profile on this to help build relationships internally, and this included your location in the building. Now, the complaints team never dealt face to face with employees. Whenever we got complaints come through the phones, we get the call transferred to us and take care of everything from there. No one ever came to us, met us, or needed to find us. Our office could have been in another country and no one would be any the wiser, nor would it have impacted anything. I didn't bother filling in my profile as a result. It was fiddly and not very intuitive, would have taken me 30 minutes to do, and frankly, when trying to help people in debt, I'd rather spend that time helping someone than filling out a silly form for no reason. Plus, we'd moved location in the building 3 times in the last 6 months, so why put my location knowing I'd have to just update it a few weeks later when we move again? Management asked me a few times to update it, and each time I explained it was a bit of a waste of my time to update the details, given no one ever needs to come and find me, and I'd rather help our customers. Eventually, after a few weeks of this, they basically told me to do it, no exceptions. Okay, fair enough. If you want me to do it so badly, I'll put my location on my profile. So being a petty person, I updated my location to the Evergreen building 2nd floor, turn left at the stairs, go through the double doors and walk for 7 meters, table number 5 perpendicular to the window, north facing, opposite Sandra between the hours of 9 AM to 5 PM, big chair, and then added the longitude and latitude coordinates. I thought it was pretty funny, and it probably was the most accurate location on the entire intranet. Well, 4 weeks later, the company were doing some major updates to the intranet over the weekend for some project they were doing. From what I understand, the update included a patch or code that would prevent people from entering too many letter characters into their personal profile fields. Given there were 800 plus employees, they didn't want too much information clogging up the systems. Problem was, the update would crash or break every time they tried to implement it because there was already a profile that didn't mesh with the new rules. My profile. They had to call out someone externally from the company they leased the internet software from to make a manual change to my profile details so they could finish this important update, costing the company thousands in emergency call-out fees. Management brought it to my attention and admitted that whilst they could say I was only trying to be funny to just not put my location on there in future, given how much it cost. My response? Why didn't they just ask me to edit my profile rather than calling out someone from the software company? Clearly you knew where to find me. I mean, they're not wrong, you can't get more exact details of where to find someone than that. But also, instead of bringing someone in from the outside to manually edit their profile, why not ask that person to do it, or just send an email? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. All communication with other outside vendors must go through you? You got it! This is actually my wife's incident, but at the time it started, I told her it was going to be a great story for me to tell on here one day. The background. My wife works for a catering company as a director, and they're contracted to a museum that puts on both internal and external events. This is a new contract, so there's been a large amount of tension as the staff for the museum wants to make sure they're the top dogs and will do anything to blame things on the new catering team. For example, she once sat through a 2-hour meeting where they got yelled at because the flowers didn't look good on the table, as if that's somehow the caterer's responsibility. A large function of her job is to make the diagrams. It essentially tells the event staff at the museum and the placement crew and other vendor what kind of tables, how big they are, how many chairs, buffet tables, etc. and where they go. Well, my wife has been doing this for almost a decade, so she is very versed in not just catering, but also how events are run. So when she completes diagrams, she sends them out to everyone and the placement crew would direct any questions to her. It wasn't perfect, but it was fairly efficient. Well, the museum event staff did not like that there was someone there who knows more than them. So, one day, an email goes out to everyone stating that catering is no longer to speak to the placement crew. All communication must go through event staff. At some facilities where the event staff make diagrams themselves, which should be their job all along, that would work. But in this setup, with catering making them, it would create a game of telephone and communication could get lost. Cue the malicious compliance. The head of the placement crew comes up to my wife and has a question about the diagram. She replies, "I'm sorry, but I'm under orders to not speak with you regarding the diagram. All questions must go through event staff." He understands right away and smiles. Over the next week, for just one event with 200 people, not a lot for her industry, there occurred no less than 50 email correspondences asking for clarifications on table size, chair numbers, etc. Finally, after 3 weeks of the madness, a simple email comes out. Catering and placement team, work out all communications with yourselves. I was so proud of her. It's nice they decided to come down from their little power trip, but it's a shame it took 3 weeks though. Get angry when I'm being kind to an elderly couple? Be prepared to wait in line until hell freezes over. On mobile, apologies in advance for formatting, etc. Just happened a few days ago, on the way to vacation with the family. The terminal agent calls for boarding. We get in line, my wife, 13-year-old daughter, 16-year-old son and myself. We're somewhat near the front of the line and it quickly grows to a couple hundred people. I see an elderly couple. Woman was using a cane and both were slow moving, but they apparently didn't want to board during the assisted boarding time. I leaned out as they walked near me and asked if they would like to take our place in line. They looked a little surprised, but happily accepted. As I was helping them into the line, I hear some guy, about 5 people back, sighing and making comments under his breath. I was just about to leave the line and head to the back with my son, when the couple behind us insisted we stayed. I told him it was no problem for us to go to the back, but they weren't having it. The sighing douche overheard our conversation and decided to interject. If he wants to leave, let him. Otherwise he may as well let the other old people cut in line. I look at this little toad, not even as big as my 13-year-old daughter. Images of me tossing him and his festering Napoleon complex into the trash can are dancing in my mind. Instead, I decided to give him what he asked for. I sent my son back in the line to find any elderly people who were behind us. In a minute he returned with a lovely couple, about 70. They slipped right into line. A moment later he found 2 women travelling together, right into line. The couple behind us were almost in tears, not sure if from laughter or just enjoyed watching a teen escort elderly people towards the front of the line. Napoleon complex is having a silent tantrum as the line is going slowly, even without old line cutters. He walks from the line, complains to the agent and boards immediately. Squeaky wheel got his grease after all. It took about 10 minutes for us to go through boarding check and enter the plane. It was 2 rows of 3 seats in that plane. As we near our row number, I realise my wife is supposed to sit opposite me, in the same row as Napoleon complex. I called an audible and she sat with the kids while I took the aisle seat with Napoleon complex. He looked like he was going to pee in his pants and just stared out the window. I made sure it was the most uncomfortable 5-hour flight of his life. Strange how bullies never shut up until they're afraid. I don't know if I would outright call him a bully. I think he was just being an inconsiderate jerk. But those 5 hours must have felt like 5 lifetimes for him. You want to pay the same wage as our company? Alrighty then. I hope this fits. I immediately thought of this sub while it went down. So, I'm a journeyman electrician and I work for a contracting company doing maintenance for a large industrial company. I have experience doing some residential work, so sometimes I'll do small side jobs for people I know to bring in some extra moolah. One day, one of the girls working in the office approached me about wiring up a bathroom she was finishing in her basement. Not a big deal, I thought, so I told her I could do it for $50 an hour plus material. A real bargain if you know how much a good electrician can cost. She agreed, so the next weekend I had available, I did the job. After I finished the work, which only took about 8 hours and $100 in materials because I used some stuff I had at home, I handed her the bill. She threw a fit, saying, "But so-and-so company pays you less. I'll only pay what so-and-so company pays your company." I tried to explain that she doesn't realise what she's saying, but she wouldn't let me finish. I made sure she was absolutely sure and adjusted my price. She figured that because my company only pays me $36 an hour, her company only pays my company $36 an hour for my services. She was obviously mistaken, because that doesn't make sense with the extra cost of insurance, licensing and benefits. Her company actually pays around $80 an hour for my services. So, I adjusted the bill to match. The old bill was roughly $500. The new bill was $750. She was livid. She tried to retract on me, but her husband had overheard and made her pay the new bill. He was a good guy. He knew she was digging herself a hole and wanted her to learn a lesson. Not a huge loss for her, but it certainly put her in her place. She ignores me at work now, but her husband said I'll be the go-to guy for any small electrical jobs him and his buddies may have. What an incredibly scummy thing to do, to agree to a price, let them carry out the work and then try and negotiate once everything is done. I'm glad her husband made her pay the extra money. She really deserved that lesson. Okay, so that's all for r/MaliciousCompliance. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord, and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. And as it's Sunday, I also want to say a massive thank you to my wonderful patrons. BackwardsDDog, Tyler Miller, Jens Banning, Kate McCutcheon, Skyler A, Elizabeth Filmore, Two Chooks, Jen Burton, and Stephen Arnowitt. Thank you all so much for your support. Mwah. That's for you, but keep it between us, okay? Thank you so much for watching. Bye!